Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our presentation, The Eye Movement During the Perusal Time in Piano Sight Reading, the role of musical structure and competence in pre-service teachers. My name is Sumi Kwon, a professor in Korea National University of Education, and the most trusted co-researcher, Suyong Bae. She is a professor in Sungshin Women's University. We are very happy to be able to present the pre-conference of NCKP 2025. These are the table of contents. I will present the introduction part, including the research purpose and research question and research methodology, as well as literature review. And Professor Bae will continue to present the research findings and conclusions. Sight reading is the ability to play music after a brief perusal time without practice. The perusal time is a preparation process for sight reading. The accomplished sight readers use their perusal time efficiently by scanning the score for understanding the musical structure. Most research on music reading has focused on professional musicians' eye movements. Studying their eye movements helps identify the cognitive process during their music reading. However, understanding why beginners vary in reading ability is also important. Only few studies have examined what beginners read during their perusal time and how the musical structure affects their eye movements. So the purpose of our research is to explore the differences in information processed during perusal time based on individuals' sight reading abilities. And additionally, we are going to identify how musical structure affects sight reading. Our research addresses the following research questions. Is there any difference in eye movement according to sight reading ability during perusal time? And second, is the difference in eye movement according to sight reading ability affected by the structure of music during the perusal time? And third, is there any difference in the information read during perusal time according to sight reading ability? For our research, the voluntary participants were recruited from pre-service elementary school teachers who were taking the Class Piano 1 course in the first year at the Korea National University of Education, led by me. Among those 21 pre-service teachers who initially participated, and those whose eye tracking ratio was less than 60%, were excluded. So the final study subjects were 19 participants. These are the research method and its process. We developed 3 types of music excerpts, structured as single melody, parallel melody, and harmonic melody. And second, calibration was conducted using an eye tracking device. We tried to ensure the participants' eye movements aligned accurately with the positions on the screen. And third, each participant read the music through a computer monitor and played the piano like this. The picture is follows. And to ensure the reliability of the research results, a 2-bar line of preliminary beat at quarter notes 80 was presented before the participants began their performance. And for the equipment, the eye movement was detected by Tobii Pro X260. The eye tracker was attached to the bottom of the monitor here, and the video reflecting the eye movement was generated on the monitor. Now, we briefly review the literature about the characteristics of eye movements of good sight readers. The mean fixation duration is shorter, and the total fixation number is higher in those with good music reading ability compared to those with poor music reading ability. And the eye-hand span was longer in those with better music reading skills, which means that the eye moved farther ahead of the current hand position to read the music in advance. And skilled readers' eye movements are directed across the line and phrases, whereas less proficient readers tend to concentrate only the specific individual notes. Also, better readers' eye movements go farther ahead in the score, but also check on themselves by returning to the current point, which means they read forward and backward. According to previous study, we find different strategies in sight reading. For instance, horizontal eye movements are commonly found in polyphonic texture, and more horizontal eye movements are more common in homophonic texture. In grand step piano score, each step is read separately. These findings suggest that musical structure and the visual information of the score can influence the eye movement. This is another example of our recent research that we found out that when playing both ends together simultaneously, the participants needed to process a wider range of visual information, resulting in shorter and more frequent fixations. Furthermore, in terms of gaze directions, we reported that participants who read bidirectionally, forward and backward, demonstrated high performance accuracy on average. Now, Professor Bae will continue the explanation of research findings.
Hello, I'm Professor Suyong Bae from Sungshin Women's University. Continuing with the presentation, I will now share the results of this study, focusing especially on the analysis of eye movements during the Perusal time before the actual playing on the piano. The steps of analysis are as follows. First, analyzing eye movements across all AOIs of each melody. Second, analyzing eye movements measure by measure for each melody. And third, analyzing eye movements on notes, steps, and blank areas within each melody. I will first share the results from the over AOI analysis and then move on to measure by measure and detailed area analysis for each melody. The results of the eye movements in all AOIs of each melody are as seen here. First, for the single line melody, we didn't see much difference between the high and low performance groups. Both groups moved their eyes similarly. However, as the melody became more complex, clear differences appeared. In the parallel melody, the high performance group had higher TFN, meaning they moved their eyes more frequently, shorter MFD, meaning each fixation was brief, and longer TFD, meaning they spent more total time viewing the melody. In contrast, the low performance group had lower TFN, meaning they moved their eyes less frequently, shorter TFD, meaning they spent less total time viewing the melody, possibly because they looked down at their hands, and no notable change in MFD, meaning their fixation durations remained similar even as the melody became more complex. For the most complex harmonic melody, the high performance group had even higher TFN, more eye movements, and longer TFD, more total viewing time, while the low performance group showed no clear changes. Now, I will explain these results in more detail for each melody. Here are the results of eye movements measure by measure for the single line melody during the Perusal time. The low performance group spent more time looking at the time and key signatures, as well as the first measure, and didn't pay much attention to the other measures. In contrast, the high performance group looked briefly across all measures, even though they also focused mostly on the first measure. Eye movements on note, staff, and blank areas in single line melody are as shown here. There was a clear difference in how the two groups looked at blank areas. The low performance group gazed more on the blank area above the staff, while the high performance group gazed more on the blank area below the staff. There was no notable difference in how both groups looked at the notes themselves. However, for the staffs, the high performance group had higher TFN and longer TFT, meaning they looked more frequently and spent more time gazing at the staff lines between notes. Now I will show you a video illustrating these eye movements for both groups during the period time. As you can clearly see, there is a noticeable difference between the two groups. Next, let's look at the results for parallel melody. As you can see here, the low performance group mostly focused their eye movements on the first measure. In contrast, the high performance group skimmed through all the measures, even though they also paid attention to the first measure. The two groups also differed in how they looked at notes, staff, and blank areas. The high performance group spent more time looking at the blank area above the staff, as well as the notes and staff on the right-hand side. This indicates that high performers focused more on the upper melody line and quickly recognized the lower melody as parallel. On the other hand, the low performance group mainly focused on the blank area between the staff and notes on the left-hand side. This suggests that they might not have immediately recognized the similarity between the two melody lines, instead treating the lower melody as something new to learn. Now, I will show you a video illustrating the eye movements of the high performance group on the parallel melody. Okay, here is the video illustrating the eye movements of the low performance group on the parallel melody. You can see the clear difference. Lastly, I will share the results for the harmonic melody. An interesting point here is that the high performance group spent more time looking at the time and key signatures, and especially the last measure, compared to the low performance group and also compared to the previous melodies. They may have done this to quickly identify the tonality. In contrast, the low performance group paid little attention to the second line, mostly focusing on the first measure. Now let's compare eye movements on note, staff, and blank area in the harmonic melody between the two groups. The high performance group focused more on the blank area above the staff, as well as notes and staff on the right-hand side, compared to the low performance group. This suggests that once they identified the tonality, they might not have needed to closely examine the left-hand part, since they were likely already familiar with the chord structures and progression. On the other hand, the low performance group focused more on areas related to the left hand, such as the blank spaces below and between the steps, as well as the left hand chords and steps. Here, like this. Interestingly, while they only had about 5 more fixations on the left chords compared to the high performance group, their total viewing duration, TFD, was about twice as long. This means they spent longer time trying to read and understand the left-hand chord. Now I will show you a video illustrating the eye movements of the high performance group on the harmonic melody. Now I will show you a video illustrating the eye movements of the low performance group on the harmonic melody. Here you can see the clear difference as well. From these results, we conclude. First, eye movements during the Perusal time clearly differ depending on the complexity of the music and the participant's sight reading ability. Second, the amount and range of musical information taken in during Perusal time also varied depending on the individual's sight reading skills. Third, participants looked at various areas, notes, staff, and blank spaces during the Persian time. Their eye movements in each area differed based on both the complexity of the melody and their sight reading skills. Finally, when reading music arranged for two hands, eye movements between the right and left hands areas vary significantly depending on the sight reading ability. High performance readers tend to focus more on the right hand elements. In contrast, low performance readers pay more attention to left hand elements. These differences reflect distinct strategies in how each group approached and understood the music. This concludes our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.